You won't believe what's happening in the EV market right now. The EV market is collapsing as we speak, and people are about to see the biggest auto crash till date. Do not buy an EV right now. The middle class just got hit by a shocking reality. EVs are a scam! Political leaders want to force us into buying overpriced EVs while hiding a dark truth that I will expose in this video. If you thought EVs are the future, let me ask you this. Why are dealers running away from EVs? Why are more than 4,000 EVs lying unsold in these so-called EV graveyards? And why is Joe Biden having to pump billions of dollars into EVs and people are still not buying? The EV dream has turned into a nightmare, and I'm going to tell you exactly why that happened and where it all went wrong. And if you're someone looking to buy an EV at a reasonable price, chances are this video will save you thousands of dollars. Here's the rundown. Ford, GM, Tesla, Jeep, and literally all the legacy brands just hit the brakes on EV production. Biden is trying hard to sell the idea of EVs to the market, but the people? Well, we've finally started to see through the lies. And let me tell you, EVs are not as green as they want you to think. Before I tell you why, let's look at how this crash will affect you and I. The EV market has finally crashed, destroying not one, but multiple companies. But how bad is it really? I'm talking about a situation where Ford has to sell EVs at a loss of $36,000 per car. Tesla has had to slash prices more than 3 times in a single quarter, and thousands of EVs are lying unsold in dealer lots. On average, used EVs are now 33.7% cheaper than they were in October 2022. This equates to an average price reduction of $17,872, with the average used EV selling for $34,994 in October 2023, down from $52,821 a year ago. Teslas, which are often seen as the benchmark in the EV market, have witnessed some of the most significant drops in dollar terms. The Model X experienced a decrease of $21,775, while the Model S and Model 3 saw reductions of $18,596 and $14,716 respectively. But what about those people who've already purchased an EV? Well, they're crying too, slapped with 3 major hidden cost hurdles that no one warned them about. I'm going to reveal this later in the video, but first, I need to tell you how you can save yourself from getting robbed in the crash. According to the latest sales report, there's been a 30% decline in used EV sales this year, and new EVs are taking twice as long to sell compared to a non-EV car. Customers are not buying EVs due to 3 big reasons: high entry price, poor range, and poor charging infrastructure. Instead, people are loving their good old combustion cars. Why not? They're cheap, simple, and they get the job done. It's not just a few brands struggling. We're talking about all EV makers feeling the heat. Sales are down across the board. It's like a domino effect of doom. And here's the kicker. Used EVs are about as popular as a skunk in a floral shop. They're practically unsellable, with values plunging by 30% year over year. If you were to open the Tesla app and check for the depreciation on a 2020 Tesla, you'll see that the car is just 50% of its initial value. In just 3 years, a massive drop of 50%. And I'm not even talking about the time when the EV battery starts to degrade, but let's put a pin in that. High interest rates and greedy dealer markups are further making it difficult for people to be able to afford EVs. Tesla's Elon Musk even slowed down plans for a new factory because of this mess. It's a big deal when the king of EVs starts getting cold feet. The raw material prices for EV batteries are dropping too, which you'd think is good, right? But nope, it's actually a sign of trouble. It means demand is slowing and the market's getting jittery. Even Ford's dialing back, cutting shifts at their F-150 Lightning plant. And over in Japan, Nidex shares took a nosedive because of all this uncertainty. It's a global freakout. So what's the breakdown for you and me? Well, if you're thinking about getting an EV, you might want to hold off. The market's in a free fall and things are only going to get crazier. China is a place where EVs are sold the most, but you'll be shocked to see what I'm about to reveal. It's a so-called EV graveyard, where more than 10,000 EVs were simply stashed. This goes to show the failure of the government and their pathetic attempt to hide it. The Chinese and the Germans both jumped into EVs with big dreams and thought people would buy them at any price, but then they were slapped with billion-dollar losses. American customers, traditionally more reliant on gas-powered vehicles, have been slower to embrace EVs, but Ford and GM have already spent over $3 billion. You have the F-150 Lightning and the Silverado EV. You can find hundreds of these in dealer lots, but did you know there's no demand for their EV counterparts? Okay, we get it. The market is going to crash, but what happens when these EVs are left abandoned? Well, the environmental impact of abandoning these vehicles is significant. Each car's battery contains valuable materials like nickel, lithium, and cobalt, resources that are crucial for the sustainability of the EV industry. Moreover, the rapid discarding of these vehicles undermines their purported environmental benefits, which are only realized over several years of use. But we can still stop this from happening. Companies can just stop making EVs if they aren't selling and go back to combustion and hybrids, right? Well, they could, but there's a bigger player here that's controlling everyone. You can't say no to him, you can't stop production. All you can see is the middle class struggling to make ends meet. The Biden administration, with their love for EVs, has made one thing crystal clear. You either make EVs or you perish. We don't care. And those high prices? Let's let people fall into the trap of high monthly payments available easily. And that's not off the mark. How many of you watching have a car payment over $300 a month? Dealers are so tired of this that 3,000 of them even got together and decided to give Biden an earful in a fiery letter. Over 3,000 auto dealers from across the nation, representing all 50 states and every major car brand, have sent an open letter to President Biden expressing their concerns over the administration's push towards electric vehicles. The crux of their argument is straightforward, yet alarming. Electric vehicles are not selling as expected, and dealerships are finding themselves with an excess of unsold EVs despite various incentives and price cuts. Slow down the transition and stop forcing the common man into buying EVs. Oh, and did you know you'll also need to have a $6,000 insurance policy on your EV? No, I'm not joking. Hear me out for a minute carefully. First, let's talk about the cost of keeping an EV. When EVs first hit the roads, they were hailed as the future of motoring. Cleaner, greener, and supposedly cheaper in the long run. But the reality of maintaining and insuring an EV is starting to paint a different picture. The cost of repairs can be astoundingly high. For instance, a seemingly minor collision that damages an EV's battery can result in repair bills shooting up exponentially. One might think that a small dent or scratch on a battery casing wouldn't be a big deal, but the insurance companies think otherwise. They often demand complete battery replacements for even the slightest damage. We're talking about going from a $1,000 repair job to a staggering $15,000 burden, just because of the stringent standards set by insurers and the conservative approaches of car manufacturers towards battery integrity. This leads us to the insurance costs for EVs, which are proving to be another hidden hurdle for owners. EV owners have been facing skyrocketing insurance premiums. In some cases, these premiums have increased threefold, causing a real shock to those who expected lower running costs. There are stories of Tesla owners, for example, who have seen their insurance premiums jump from a manageable amount to jaw-dropping figures, reaching as high as $6,000 per year. This hike in insurance costs is partly due to the higher expense of repairing EVs and the perceived risks associated with their batteries. And amidst all this chaos, President Biden has now issued another crazy anti-EV mandate. There's a new directive that's basically saying to federal government employees, hey, from now on, you're only traveling in EVs, else you'll face consequences. This means prioritizing electric vehicles, trains, and public transportation for all official government business. In his previous campaign, Biden made some outrageous claims about reducing emissions, and now as the elections inch closer, he's doing everything in his power to push EVs, even if it means killing combustion engines. The White House is also pushing super hard on tailpipe emissions rules. They've proposed some of the toughest regulations ever, with the aim of making a huge chunk of new vehicle purchases electric by 2032. This is huge because it's not just about encouraging EV use, it's also about making it tougher to stick with gas-powered cars. Critics are saying these moves might ramp up the cost for consumers. Plus, there's the whole issue with the supply of EVs and the infrastructure needed to support them. Charging stations, energy grids, you name it, there's a lot that needs to be in place for this all to work. And then there's the geopolitical angle. A lot of the critical materials needed for EV batteries comes from overseas, particularly China. So shifting to EVs also means dealing with international politics and trade. So what we're seeing here is a huge push from the US government to not just nudge, but shove the country towards electric vehicles. It's ambitious, it's bold, and it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. The politicians are in the driver's seat, and companies are ignoring their customers' demands. But all of this has backfired, and the results are going to be much worse than anybody thought. Do you think political leaders are controlling the EV market? Will EVs become affordable anytime soon? Let me know down in the comments below. I just uploaded a video about groundbreaking news that could hurt the entire EV industry. Do check it out if you want to be truly shocked by what's about to happen with EVs.